This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Ahoy hoy, it's Lydia here from the Simpsons Theory. So it's finally here, it's the video you guys have endlessly been requesting for since day one of me starting these timeline videos, Lisa Simpson.
I'm popular. Hope this doesn't go to my head. It went right to my head!
Throughout its 30-year run, we have seen more of Lisa's future than any other character in the show, and as a result, it's kind of all over the place. To add fuel to this fire, the recent Flash Forward episode, Mother and Child Reunion, made it even more confusing. So, for the past few weeks, I have locked myself in a room and have driven myself to the point of insanity, trying to piece together Lisa's convoluted future. So, in order for this to make any sort of sense, I'm going to talk about two alternative timelines. One where she goes to college and one where she doesn't.
I'm not going to college.
As always, with this video series, I'm laying out Lisa's entire life, from her birth to her death, and you guessed it, everything else in between. We'll explore Lisa's marriage, her relationship with her daughter, and becoming the franking president of the United States. This is the complete Lisa Simpson timeline.
I am the Lizard Queen!
Lisa's birth, Lisa's first word. Lisa's arrival shook up the entire Simpsons family, prompting their move to the iconic Evergreen Terrace and the annihilation of Bart's dream of being an only child, and so dividing the attention he got from his parents.
I hate you.
Bart did all he could to get rid of his new star-headed sister, such as sending her away in the post, cutting off all of those lovely locks, and when none of that works, he decides to run away from home. But he is stopped in his tracks when Lisa says her very first word.
Bart?
And when Marge tells Bart that Lisa looks up to him, they share a really sweet moment, and so starts their turbulent but overall sweet relationship. On another note, Lisa's high intelligence is evident from a very early age. Even though she's wearing diapers, she is already forming complete sentences and can even say,
Save a Hasselhoff.
and Homer admires just how intelligent Lisa is, which rubs Bart up the wrong way.
We didn't have to pull you out by the elbow, like the boy. Mwah!
And throughout this video, you will see the development of their sibling rivalry going on throughout the years. Age 2, the kids are all fight. It seems that Lisa's first word being Bart didn't make up for the typical sibling rivalry as they continue to fight like brother and sisters do. Marge is so frustrated with their constant fighting that she takes the kids to a counsellor, and while there, they're told that one of their kids is smart and good and the other is dim and evil. No points for whoever gets that right. Back at the house, while Lisa and Bart are having yet another fight with croquet mallets, Ned says that Grandma Flanders will look after the kids so Homer and Marge can get some peace. But the only one who'll be getting any kind of peace is Grandma Flanders, as she dies, therefore leaving the kids unsupervised. And when they hear the sweet, sweet sound of an ice cream truck, they have to go out and get some, but they end up getting lost in the city. Whilst on their adventure, Bart goes into an alley and he finds a younger Kearney, Dolph and Jimbo, where they take his tricycle. But Lisa saves the day by pretending to cry, making the bullies back off. It's at this moment Bart really admires just how smart Lisa is. But on their journey back home, they go down a hill, but Lisa can't quite control her pedal car, so Bart saves her moments before the car hits a tree and explodes. And so this nicely displays that both Simpson siblings have their strengths and use them to help out one another. Later on, Bart hears yet another ice cream truck and goes to find it, but Lisa holds him back just in time.
Bart, haven't you learned anything?
This again suggests that Bart acts on impulse, whereas Lisa is perhaps slightly more thoughtful.
You'll always be half my age, but you'll always be smarter than me.
Age 3 3/8, Lisa's sax. As we all know, one of Lisa Simpson's biggest passions is jazz, and being a kid swept up in emotions way beyond her years, she settles them by playing the blues on her saxophone. She first got her instrument at 3 years old, or to be exact,
I am 3 3/8.
When the school psychologist notices Lisa's advanced intelligence, he recommends that her gifted spirit is nurtured. They first look at private schools, but soon find out that they just can't afford the tuition, so they have to find another way to nurture her talents. When a terrible heatwave hits Springfield, Homer takes Lisa to buy an air conditioner with a $200 savings. But on the way to buy it, Lisa is absolutely fascinated by a saxophone in the music store window. Realizing that a musical instrument is a perfect way to encourage a gifted child, he sacrifices his air conditioner to buy Lisa her first saxophone. The store manager then asks Homer for an inscription for the sax.
To Lisa, never forget your daddy loves.
This decision not only defined Lisa, but also defined Homer as a father, and so we gain recognition that he always put his family's needs before his own. Age day, normal day. We can spend ages on this section, 30 years in fact, but suffice to say that Lisa has accomplished a whole lot in 1 year. She helped develop an inspirational doll for children, got a corrupt senator arrested, and even governed Springfield for a short while with other resident brainiacs.
We're gonna use the power of good ideas to change things for the better.
At one point, Lisa's elected student body president at Springfield Elementary. She stands up to Principal Skinner and his cuts to the budget, rallying up a student protest. This perhaps starts her presidential aspirations. Another big trait of Lisa Simpson is she's not afraid to stand up for what she believes is right, even if this means disagreeing with her family. When she had a crisis of faith, Lisa left the church and instead sought enlightenment as a Buddhist.
I'm a Buddhist!
And despite bribery from her mother and pressure from those around her, Lisa stuck to her beliefs. And after befriending a cute little lamb, she decides to become a vegetarian, even though her entire family ate meat.
What about bacon?
No.
Ham?
No.
And compared to every other character on the show who always seems to revert back to their old ways, Lisa's decisions have stuck, and to this day she is a Buddhist and a vegetarian. Paul McCartney would be proud. Ever the entrepreneur, Lisa once made her own social networking website called Springface, which became hugely popular in the town. But you don't have to be a brainiac like Lisa in order to make your very own website. With Squarespace's all-in-one platform, it's even easier to build your own online presence and run your business in an attractive, slick, and personalized way. It's so easy to use that even Homer could do it. And dum-dums like me, I created my very own website within a day, personalizing it to my branding style so visitors would know it's officially owned by me. With lots of customization options and templates to choose from, it's so simple to create your own site, whether you're a small business wanting to sell products, showcasing your media portfolio when applying for jobs, or wanting to use it as a blog and creative outlet. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial and see if it's a good fit for you. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/The Simpsons Theory to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Age 14, Mr. Lisa's Opus. Lisa is woken up to a blast from the past as Bart and Leon Kompowski sing happy birthday to her.
Thank you. It's a wonderful cake, Dad, but I'm 14.
Go!
When she arrives back from school, she finds a suitcase packed with her mother's clothes and a letter addressed to Homer saying that Marge is leaving him due to excessive drinking. Knowing that her parents are on the edge of breaking up for good, Lisa finds Homer at Moe's and urges him to quit for the sake of his marriage. And with the help of Ned, Homer quits drinking for good.
Yes!
And so she saves her parents' marriage yet again, even on her birthday. This is hardly the first time that Lisa has patched up her parents' rocky relationship. When Marge kicked Homer out for telling the entire town about their intimate secrets, Homer moves into the treehouse and creates a new Marge from a plant. And it's Lisa who offers sage advice for her hopeless dad.
Now don't screw it up.
Age 16 to 18, Lisa goes to college. As you'd expect from the smartest kid at Springfield Elementary, Lisa is graduating 2 years early. And at this time, Lisa is dating a very muscular Milhouse, and they've been seeing each other for a few good years after he saved her from a fire, which she later learns that he started. They go to prom together, but she dumps him right afterwards, sending him on a really dramatic rampage across town. But we'll go into their rocky relationship a bit later on in the video. Now, Lisa is accepted into several Ivy League universities. In some episodes she goes to Yale, but in another she goes to Harvard. Now, it is possible that she attended both. She could have started at Yale and finished a postgraduate degree at Harvard, but who knows? Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit freaky, so bear with me here. This is where the timeline is now going to split, with one path leading down to college and the other leading down a very different road. But we'll dive into the latter a bit later. But first, let's see where college takes her and us on little Lisa's life. While at Harvard, Lisa begins dating women.
I have a friend. Oh, maybe more than a friend.
From a family photo montage, we can see that Lisa goes on to date other girls and is at this point in a polyamorous relationship with 2 women. Sometime during this point, Lisa also hooks up with Nelson, as the two could be seen together when they visit Bart's bike shop. Now, many of us know that the two first dated 10 years ago when the goody two-shoes Lisa fell for the resident bad boy. So it does make sense why she would date an old flame. They shared their first kiss together and she failed to reform him into a model boyfriend, realizing that she can't change him and breaks it off.
Let's just call it smell you later.
Although it seems that Nelson has reformed, giving back all of Bart's stolen lunch money, the couple don't work out as Lisa goes on to meet a new man in the next stage of her life. Age 23, Lisa's wedding. While studying at Yale, Harvard, or wherever, she bumps into an infuriating chap named Hugh, who always seems to be 2 steps ahead of her. And despite seemingly hating each other, they soon fall in love. Hugh takes Lisa to England to meet his parents, but before long he pops the question.
Yes, I will.
Homer Simpson is elated to find that his little Lisa is getting married, but his boss Milhouse is less than pleased, seeing as she dumped him a few years earlier.
It's not you, Milhouse. I just don't plan to ever get married.
But don't worry, Milhouse fans, he will get the last laugh in the end, but more on that later. Before tying the knot, Lisa takes Hugh to Springfield to meet her parents, and she is understandably nervous. Things don't get off at a great start when Homer accidentally sets fire to the British flag. And things go from bad to worse as Hugh falls through Homer's makeshift bedroom and lands in compost.
Be a dear, run a bath.
And to try and cheer him up, Homer takes his future son-in-law to Moe's and gifts him with a pair of pig cufflinks. On the day of the wedding, Homer speaks to the bride before the ceremony and the two have a really cute heart-to-heart.
You're my greatest accomplishment and you did it all yourself.
However, Lisa notices that Homer's now wearing the pig cufflinks, and so she takes them and gives them to Hugh. And now Hugh begrudgingly puts them on, and while doing so admits that he actually dislikes her family. He informs her that once they are married, they will live in England and they will never see her family ever again. Now absolutely furious, Lisa says that although she's embarrassed by them and despite their many flaws, she still loves her family.
And I don't think you understand that.
And unable to marry a man who can accept her family, she calls the wedding off, being the little Lisa that we love by standing by her morals and her family. Age 38, Lisa's family life. Milhouse has achieved his lifelong goal and has finally married Lisa.
Everything's coming up, Milhouse!
Now, as we all know, Thrillhouse has had a crush on Lisa for years and has constantly been trying to chase her affections. And there have been a few times where Lisa has liked Milhouse in the past, but this was really due out of pity, jealousy, or because he was acting like a totally different person. Personally, I hate that Lisa ends up with Milhouse. They just couldn't be more different. Lisa is strong-willed, intelligent, and independent, while Milhouse is the complete opposite. He's a follower, a born sidekick, with no backbone. She's settled. I mean, just look at the wedding photo. She's not even smiling. She's stuck in a loveless marriage, and it's really sad to see. But it's not all bad. Lisa does have a daughter whose name's Zia, but technically she's not Milhouse's biological daughter.
When we had her, they used only the best genetic material, which meant none of mine.
Lisa has a strange relationship with her daughter, who she is having trouble connecting with. In an effort to bond, Lisa takes her to her parents for Christmas. Marge then tries to offer some motherly advice, but Lisa dismisses her instantly.
I am trying to deal with my disrespectful daughter, but you are too clueless to understand what that's like.
To escape from their family troubles, Lisa and Bart hide away in their old treehouse and complain about their woes. Despite their constant rivalry over the years, the two have finally made amends and can actually have a mature relationship. When Lisa complains to Bart about their mother, Bart defends Marge by saying,
Mom kept her hands off you and you turned out great.
This makes Lisa realise that she's being a bit too harsh on Marge and goes to wake her up to apologise. Worried about how her daughter is spending her time, Lisa does some snooping by hooking herself into the ultranet to see what Zia is doing online. While in the virtual world, we see a list of Facebook friends requests pop up, including Nelson.
Is your marriage still dead and unfulfilled?
Cutting back to the treehouse, when Lisa and Bart were talking, she admitted that she still sometimes talks to Nelson on the phone, and so it appears that she still holds a flame for that old bad boy. Anyway, Lisa enters Zio's virtual private space, but instead of finding anything nefarious, she instead discovers an innocent bedroom. On the wall are posters of female idols, including Lisa herself. Although initially upset that her privacy was invaded, Zia admits that her mother is her role model. Age 39, Days of Future. Jumping forward a year or so later, Lisa and Milhouse's relationship is still an unhappy one, with them barely speaking to one another. Lisa spends her free time volunteering at the zombie rescue mission, and when Milhouse pops by to check on her, he accidentally insults a zombie and it takes a bite out of him. And as a result, Milhouse is now a zombie.
Brains.
No, those are just teaching brains.
When coming out of a food store, an old Adolph, Jimbo and Kearney try to threaten them, and instead of cowardly running away, zombie Milhouse attacks the thieves, using a police cop Ralph as a weapon. Impressed by his bravery, she actually prefers Milhouse as a zombie.
I even prefer the way he smells now.
And as there is no cure for zombieism, Lisa now seems content with her marriage. Now, before we discuss Lisa Simpson's presidency, let's first circle back a few decades, all the way back to when Lisa got accepted into college, and explore the events in the season 32 episode, Mother and Child Reunion. Aged 18, again, Mother and Child Reunion. Now, this new episode explores an alternative future where Lisa decides not to go to college. When Lisa is accepted into several Ivy League universities, her mother is naturally elated, as it has always been her dream to see her little girl go to college. However, Lisa shocks her mother by declaring that she no longer wants to go to college.
I'm not going to college.
Really? Who are you?
This becomes a huge point of contention between the two, and they fall out. And instead of going to college, Lisa instead works for a fast food restaurant, and realizing just how much working for squeaky voiced teens sucks, she decides to dedicate herself to teaching people who lack basic skills, such as reading and math. From teaching out of a simple room, she goes on to set up the Lisa Simpson Academy, opening up several other schools across the states. Now a respected educator, she runs against Super Nintendo Chalmers, the state school superintendent. Lisa then climbs the political ladder all the way to Washington, where she runs against Isabel in the presidential election as a member of the Democratic Robot Zombie Coalition. Lisa in her 40s and President of the United States. Although Lisa's future is a little messy, one constant throughout is that Lisa becomes President of the United States. We first see this all the way back in the episode Bart the Future, and we get a glimpse of her in a presidential debate in the season 24's The Kids Is Alright. And in Mother and Child Reunion, she is shown to be a very popular president.
Wow, that's pretty cool for someone who was always unpopular.
It's unknown whether Lisa married Milhouse and had her daughter Zia during the mother and child reunion timeline, but it's possible that the events of Holidays of Future Past and Days of Future Future actually happened. If that's the case, then it looks like they found a cure for zombieism after all, as Milhouse is a cabinet member, and as far as we're aware, they could still be married. During her speech at the White House, Lisa says that,
Yes, I am proud to be America's first straight female president.
although earlier we did establish that Lisa could quite possibly be bi, seeing as she's been in relationships with women in the past. After being sworn in, Lisa has to clean up the mess left from the previous president.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
And if that wasn't all she had to deal with, her older brother comes to live with her in the White House too. Although a huge pain in her ass, Bart does help her with diffusing tensions with other world leaders who are demanding their loans back. And it seems that this was the real turning point for Bart, as in Mother and Child Reunion, Bart has cleaned himself up and has gotten his act together. He even heals the divide between his mother and sister, texting his mum to meet them on top of the White House. And although Marge is still disappointed that Lisa didn't go to college, the two do make amends and they bury the hatchet. Personally, I find it really weird that her mother is still hung up on Lisa not going to university. The point of uni is so you can get your degree and a great job. I mean, Lisa literally holds one of the most powerful positions in the world. And the only difference is that she's not saddled with student debt, like me, which I'll be paying off until the day I die. Oh God. Anyway, speaking of death, let's now move on to Lisa's final years. Age 98, Lisa Simpson's death. Leaving behind the stress of running the country, Lisa has now dedicated her life to Buddhism and is living in a monastery. When she sits down to meditate, she gets a sudden realization that enlightenment has all been a waste of time, before suffering a heart attack, and Lisa Marie Simpson dies at the tender age of 98. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Lisa's timeline is all over the place. As such, there is no one answer to Lisa's future. There's probably even more webs of timelines that I could go into in the future, but at the moment I've tried to make this as cohesive as possible. Finally, I'd like to thank my newest Flying Hellfish member, Emily Allison. Thank you so much, Emily, for supporting the channel. It really does mean a big amount to me. And of course, a big thank you to my other lovely Flying Hellfish members. We have Timothy, who owes Bazane, Liam, Steve, Charlie, Sean, Andre, Stefan, Vincent, Robert, Ashley, Kevin, Glenford, Devin, Gadrak, Stephen, Edward, Anthony, Nicola, Nerdcentric, Jeffrey, Stephen, Dominic, Cody, Aaron, Jakku Star, GameBoss49, Chaz, Jeff, Gil, Shadu, Murray, Paul, Oliver, Henry, Frank, Lucas, and Emily.